we're going to have a more interactive session, and I think Dr. Fernando Salvetti is able to join us again. Hello.
Hello. Hi. How are you?
And I know you're representing a group of colleagues as well, aren't you, who work with you?
Yeah, Cristiano Galli. I hope he is able as well to enter into the platform.
Hello. Hi, everyone.
Hi.
Hi, Fernando.
Hi, Cristiano. Okay. And first of all, welcome all into our escape room. And when I'm saying our is a very extensive meaning, means you are part of the room. Because today with Cristiano, we are expected to share all the challenges that we faced in order to develop this online escape room. As we will see in a few moments, we started brick and mortar. We started really into a physical environment. And then, mainly because coronavirus, we had also to develop an online solution. So let's jump quickly to take a look to all the team involved. Today with me, my name is Fernando, there is Cristiano, another Italian pronunciation, so Cristiano Galli, or easier, Chris, and for me, Fer. Then Rox, or Roxanne Garner, Rebecca Meinert, and Barbara Bertagni. Those last three colleagues of us cannot attend today because otherwise we would be too many into the platform and too long to have all talking and sharing with you what we did. But anyway, in case of interest, in case of further questions, please feel free to write to all of us. And the all of us are not only Cristiano, myself, Barbara, Rebecca, Roxanne. There is also Jenny Rudolph, and there is Giancarlo Magarucci. Giancarlo is the man with the boy. Cristiano is the other from the Italian Air Force. Both the two were military pilots. Roxanne is the lady in white. She is an OB, obstetrics and gynecologist. Rebecca and Jenny are the two from the operating room. Is a simulation or a simulated operating room because all what we do today, also Barbara and myself, is simulation. Same for Cristiano. We are delivering simulation, advanced immersive simulation into physical or phygital environments, brick and mortar plus a lot of virtual or digital objects to interact with. At the same time, we are doing pretty the same, even if it's not really the same, online, into a virtual platform that is the one that we will mainly focus today. We have something very specific. We are used to work goggle-free. We skip goggles, glasses, head-mounted displays, and other wearable joysticks or wearable helmets like I was saying, joysticks, gloves, and so on, because we try to reach a very natural simulation experience every and any time. Some more people, because developing an escape room means, in our case, partnering with a company we have used to work with in a very deep and engaged way, that is Hannibal Studios from Turin, Italy, because we need multimedia designers, we need ICT engineers, we need Unity, the graphic engine experts, we need crazy people a little bit like we are, crazy, but in very different ways. So at the end, we are a very diverse team. There are people in uniform, or that were with an uniform, from the military, from the healthcare. There are other people from the instructional design side, like myself or Barbara, Cristiano today, because he's teaching mainly leadership all over the world. And there are multimedia experts. Altogether, this is the development team who co-designed and developed both the brick and mortar simulation environment and the online simulation environment. So a lot of people involved. And now it's time for Cristiano at least to share something about himself and to take the stage.
Thank you, Fernando. It's a great pleasure for me, great honor to participate in this fantastic event. Just to share a little bit about me, I'm starting to be a little bit older than what it looked like in the picture. So I have more gray hair now than even if it's underneath the helmet. I didn't have gray hair back then. So my experience, basically, my professional experience can be summarized in three main phases. I joined the Air Force Academy, Italian Air Force Academy in 1990. For basically 20 years, that was my operational part of the career. I spent it on this airplane you see on the left of the screen, Tornado. So it's a high performance fighter airplane. So very challenging, very fun, lots of adrenaline rush, but also, you know, a lot of training, lots and lots of training in order to be able to process the information and take quick decisions in stressful environments. In 2007, I was already an instructor, and while I was flying a training mission, the Black Swan happened. So the things that you know that they can happen, but you never actually consider that they will. I mean, I'm not going to make a long story. Actually, to make a long story short, we had a problem with the airplane, and we had to eject, me and the student. I basically came out of the airplane with ejection seat 1.2 seconds before impact. I was alive, but it was definitely one of those moments that change completely your life. The last rational thought I had was, man, I didn't expect to die. And then instead, you know, everything went fine. I broke my back, but I recovered. But from there, I couldn't fly jets anymore. And so I started exploring a new side of flying. That was the civilian aviation. Basically, I was assigned to kind of Air Force One, so VIP transportation, state flights. So, and in there, I experienced still flying, but in a completely different environment. It was not anymore just me and my weapons system officer, so me and my navigator, my WISO, as like we used to say, but now it was a bigger crew, so a bigger team. And so you needed to integrate more thinking, more decision-making processes. And that's where I spent the last portion of my operational career. The third and final phase is, and that's when I met Fernando, and he will speak a little bit about it later, but I was picked to be the commander of a center of excellence of the Italian Air Force, that our chief of the Air Force, really an enlightened person, realized that if we really wanted to change and face the challenging environment that was ahead of us, we needed to work on leadership. And so he created, again, a really strange team. I was the only pilot. The rest were psychologists, physicists, computer science people, data scientists. So it was really challenging in the beginning, not something I was accustomed to. But the task was to read what was there about leadership. As you know, there is a lot, but to tailor a leadership model to what was the need for our organization. Spent a couple of years doing that. And after that, we developed a new innovative leadership model for the Italian Air Force. We started redesigning all the training since, 19 years old cadets joining the academy, all the way to coaching for senior 3 and 4 star generals. It was a fantastic journey. It took us 3 years to implement all the system and start, getting it to regime. And that's where my final passion came. After that, I was so much involved into this new training and instructional designing and the leadership development that I was offered a cadre here in the UAE, in Abu Dhabi, to do the same thing basically with the Emirati Air Force. And I came here in 2019. And that's what I'm doing. That's my passion now. So I mix a little bit of my previous experience as a pilot with more expertise in the training environment and coaching and experiential learning facilitator. And so that's it. That's my new passion. And Fernando, you have it back.
Thank you, Chris. And this is where our project and our common story started. Milano Polytechnic School, the irreal cave environment that we put in place, myself, my colleagues from LogosNet, and is where Chris was a day starting saying that immersing people into a cave could be a very interesting experience. A little bit like immersing people into a technical flying simulator. So we started trying to figure out how to design an experience, an escape room, in order to have people from the military as well as from the civil world facing challenges, because not only data scientists, not only people dealing with analytics, numbers, or very short in time, like a military pilot, are in need, in our opinion, to develop some, let's say, challenging word, digital mindset. That is something that is something more than understanding something about ICT. As we are about to say, to see, and to experiment. Let's share this and only this as a reference model. Digitally minded leadership. There is something apparently a little bit strange into these schematics. There is attention. There is a dichotomization. There are opposites all together into the same person. Provide vision, but empower others. Give up control, but, or yet architect the choices. Sustain, but disrupt. Rely on data, but trust your intuition. Be skeptical, but, or yet open-minded. In less than 1 minute, I will leave Cristiano again, because he's very used to live, deal with, think about those type of dichotomization. Let's say that a digitally minded leader today is in need to try to take under control those very different aspects in order to face a very volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous world. Not only if he's a flying pilot from the force, a surgical leader, a medical doctor, a manager, an executive, a public servant. The world is complex, is ambiguous, is volatile, is very complex, really complex for all of us, basically. And so experiencing some troubles into an escape room, a highly digitalized escape room aimed at developing our digitally minded leadership, could be of a greatest benefit for many of us. To close quickly with my introduction, I had the chance with Cristiano and also with other colleagues from the Cristiano formerly job in Florence, where they have in Italy one of the schools for the officers from the Italian Air Force, to work about a digital mindset for the Italian Air Force. So I had the chance to try to merge what I learned from the civil world with something that I'm starting learning from this totally new world for me. This is another word I'm used to deal with and to deep navigate, telemedicine, not because I'm an healthcare guy, only because I am an instructional designer dealing with simulation. Third, what I'm doing since 1996, organizational behavior, leadership development, mainly within corporations and mid-sized companies, usually with operations worldwide. So the two of us, Chris and myself, we started merging two very different backgrounds, keeping in mind that a digital mindset is something that could merge and align both our experiences and both our professional path regarding this specific project that is the escape room, mainly the online, because today we are focusing about the online, even if there is a physical version. Cristiano, it's on you.
Thank you, Fernando. So before introducing this, I want to, just tell everyone, if you have any questions, any doubts, any insight you want to share, just don't wait for the end. I mean, we're going to have a Q&A time at the end, but if there is anything you want to say and, stimulate any kind of discussion, please just feel free to just raise your hand or jump in and interrupt, and we're perfectly fine with that. Actually, that's great. Why pilots? Pilots used to be a job that was much related to actual motor coordination. So like flying a machine that was difficult to fly. The more and more technology came into the business, so the more advanced airplanes became, the more piloting was getting from a motor coordination perspective easy. I mean, you see an airplane like the one I showed you before, and for you, obviously, it looks like, for somebody that doesn't know how to fly, it looks like something really difficult. Actually, flying a tornado is fairly easy. So if you know how to fly, when I did my, after my pilot training school in the States, when I went to Cottesmore in the UK to learn to fly the Tornado, during the first mission, you land by yourself. So the airplane is easy to fly. What is not easy to do is handle all the information that the technology into the airplane is basically providing you. So you become basically an information processor. And you need to do it, obviously, in a very quick environment, because the airplane goes fast, and so the environment and the information change fast. So that's why, meeting with Fernando, we realized that the experience coming from the Air Force, so from the flying business, was not just useful to the flying business itself. It could definitely be in some way cracked, analyzed, and converted into something that was going to be useful for, like Fernando said, many other professions. Like you see in the picture here, there are two kind of decision-making processes. It's not left and right brain, so this image could be a little bit misleading, but the concept is that we have, if you can go to next slide, please, Fernando. We have, and that is part of the huge research that was made by Daniel Kahneman and Amos Tversky, that I'm pretty sure that everybody know. These two researchers, and in particular Kahneman, was the first psychologist that won the Nobel Prize for Economy, because he was kind of one of the founders of behavioral economy. So he started studying why people make decisions. And in the beginning, obviously, this applied to economical decision. That is why it's kind of a mix between economy and psychology. One of his greatest discovery, he found out that it's not left and right brain. There are different networks involved. So it's like a more network structure of the brain. But basically, we have two systems for decision making. The first one is called system one. System one is intuition and instinct. 95% of the decisions we make every day are done by system one. System one is like the oldest, evolutionary speaking, decision-making system of our brain. It's like the part of the brain that carries over all the epigenetic evolution of humankind. So it's like it's systems and habits and procedures and patterns that have developed along, thousands and thousands of years. It's obviously unconscious, so you don't realize that is happening. It is really fast because it needs to take decisions quick. And then to be fast, uses associative processes. And then it's like your automatic pilot. It's very, energy saving system. That's why 95% of the time our brain functions like that. The other 5% is instead, system two, is our rational thinking. It takes effort, so it burns a lot of energy. That's why, you cannot have rational thinking on all the time. It's very slow, so it comes always in, it kicks in after system one. It uses a fantastic logical process. That is why it's the system that you use to take decision inside complexity. And it's very lazy. Lazy, again, is related to the energy because, it consumes a lot of energy. So, it takes a while before it gets into the picture. And then is indecisive. What does it mean indecisive? Basically, many times if the system one that kicks in first does not function aligned with system two, instead of overriding, kind of confirms what system one is saying. So if we go to the next slide, please, Fernando. One of the problems that we realized is that once we speak about intuition, once we speak about instinct, in some sense, there is a negative perception of it. So like doing things with instinct is a bad thing. Doing things according to an intuition is a bad thing. Actually, system one can be trained. System one makes a lot of mistakes. They're called cognitive bias. There is a huge literature on cognitive biases because of the reasons we said. It's fast. It uses association. So many times these association create like fallacies that make you take bad decisions, but can also be trained, system one. So if you learn, if you become aware of the unconscious process of your system one that uses taking a huge amount of information that you are not aware of. Every time that, in your working memory, you are using to collect, you're collecting just few items to process rationally. At the same time, your brain is acquiring a huge amount of data. This amount of data is not providing rational decision-making, but it's providing the framework for the rational decision-making. So it's giving the flavor to the decision-making. So the kind of intuitive decision-making that we need to start learning is what I say, not guessing, but smart guessing. And so we started thinking about something that could provide an environment in which we could train this kind of competency. So an online escape room designed for participants to experience cooperation and conflict, rational choice, decision-making, through functional logic, causality, hypothesis testing, problem solving, cognitive and metacognitive challenges, and teamwork and interpersonal communication under time pressure and stress. Time is a big factor that we're using because time is what we use as a resource to regulate this stressor. And everything is going to happen into a digitalized environment. obviously, all this is done. The original idea was to use it to develop competencies to work in, to change the mindset and create a digital mindset to be, you know, effective decision makers, effective leaders, effective workers in any field that has to deal with complexity. So next slide, please, Fernando. So now we want to share not just successes, but we want to share the journey. In the beginning, we created a cave software, so a cave application in which this escape room was, as you see in this picture, it was basically into the physical space of the cave. So people could actually, you know, get in there physically and, you know, use the cave screens in order to play with the tools and, you know, solve the riddles, talk to each other, communicate directly. Then COVID came, and obviously Fernando realized that we needed to think about, you know, a way to switch this into something more long distance. And so in the beginning, we superficially, system one, thought, well, easy. It's already done. It's in the cave. We just transfer it to screens, and that's gonna be good. In the process, we realized that it was not feasible. So we had to rethink, you know, the way we were structuring the training. Why? Because there were many things not being present that was taking away this huge amount of information that once you are in presence of another human being, you continuously collect. At distance, you don't have it. At distance, basically all the sensory information that in the real space, they are coming from your, you know, your even perception of your standing, the smell, what you hear, you know, the temperature of the room, all this information are gone. So everything goes into a screen and all this information are bypassed and basically they are all coming into your eyes and your ears. So everything is like filtered through the screen. And that is creating an environment that is very challenging because it's not what we are accustomed to use. That is triggering our emotional state, is triggering our system one effectiveness. And obviously by causation is also affecting system two. So next slide, please, Fernando. We came up with an escape room and we started redesigning completely the project. In the beginning, basically, we had people joining this room and we had to alternate between times in which you actually get away from the rational problem solving and you talk to each other. So you use Zoom like now to talk to each other, to exchange ideas, to humanize the experience. So you start actually seeing people, you see faces, you see voice, you hear voices, and you start realizing that the people in the room will not be only dots and just small avatars, but they will be people in some place around the world. After that, you get into an introduction video. If you can go to the next one, Fernando, and run.
Yes, and by the way, we are about to show you something that is happening into the escape room. In case someone would love to jump into the escape room directly, please let us know and we can share a link in order to have you directly into the escape room. So in case you would love today or just in case coming days. And by the way, if you would love to beta testing the escape room with us in the coming weeks and months, let us know again. We are really happy.
So this is what basically the players see once they join the room. So they're welcome in the room, and there is a small video telling them what the experience is all about. And now we share this video because basically it will explain to you what the main framework of the escape room is all about.
I start the video.
Yes. Hello, welcome. My name is Chris. I will be your facilitator for this escape room experience based on effective, intuitive decision making. I'm a previous fighter pilot from the Italian Air Force. And what I learned in my experience is that there are two ways that you make decisions. Some decisions are made rationally, with rational thinking, analytical processing, and some other decisions, especially when speed is required and when the environment is getting really complex, is intuitive. Intuitive doesn't mean you're just taking a chance. Intuitive means that your brain is using previous experiences, the processes you have already learned, the culture you're working in, and just collects a huge amount of information from the environment in order to pick the best option coming from your intuition. So intuitive decision making is very important in the complex world that we are facing today, and is not just guessing, it's smart guessing. So let's get through the instructions for this fantastic experience. The objective of the experience is to solve the riddles that will be proposed to you and find the code word that unlocks the door to escape the room. The activity is divided into 3 phases. There is a phase 1, that is the planning phase. There is a phase 2, that is the initial riddle constituted by 9 problem solving. And then once you unlock that, you will go into phase 3, that is a final riddle.
Cristiano, I think it could be better if you go directly explaining.
Absolutely. So that is the main framework. There are 3 phases in the escape room. In the phase 1, we let the players that have already met each other in a video conference with a video conference tool. Now they start exploring the room. They start developing their situational awareness. So they start, going around the room. If you can go to next slide, just to show our friends, exactly. They're going to find themselves in this kind of space in the beginning, and they're going to be able to select a certain amount of item. So like the green, the blue, and the yellow main big tables that you see in the center of the screen, in which they will have to basically fit in in this case, there will be numbers, so like codes that will unlock the yellow, the blue, and the green locks you see in the big trunk. Opening the big trunk that you see in the center will start the final riddle. So now, just to show you some video captures, you will see after they're done planning, they advise the facilitator. Facilitator stays in the background and is checking some analytical data. So he's checking, for example, the time that they're spending on planning, how much they're talking to each other. So you are kind of having data about the planning phase, the qualitative aspects of the planning phase. Once they've organized their work and they have kind of understood the problem, they tell the facilitator to start the phase 2. And in phase 2, these players start sharing, organizing their work in order to solve 9 riddles. The main key of all these riddles is that they have 2 solutions. One is the analytical one. So there is always an analytical process to read the problem, understand it, and then solve it. But there are many, for sure one, but in few cases even many shortcuts that they can take in order to reach the solution. And this is not prohibited. Actually, this is like one of the main topics, one of the main purposes of this activity. You will see now, if Fernando runs the video, you will see, for example, one of the 9 riddles that implies basically reading. So you read what is the task. In this case, you have to pick the lens, and you have to read what is the item that is most expensive, and then it says, and then you need to find it. And so basically you have to find what is the most expensive item. In this case, by exploring with the lens, the player would come to see that it's basically designer sunglasses. Then he goes back to the room and is going to have to find where the sunglasses are. And so by going around in the room, he finds this set of cards. This set of cards, obviously there are sunglasses there, but this set of cards could also have a shortcut. Why? Because when you turn them, only the sunglasses have a number on it and all the others have letters. So even if you're not reading the initial question, because in the beginning you're going around, you're exploring, you take the cards, and by looking at the cards and turning them around, there is an embedded information that can tell you that the 9 has a different meaning, because it's the only card that has a number. The others have only letters. So there are, like I said, some information embedded that are used as intuitive perception of what the solution is, even without knowing the question. So this is one of the examples. After you find the code, you go to the board and you have to insert it. I want to share with you an experience. There is another shortcut, even more, tricky. Once we did our testing during a very critical time. So as you see on the right side of the screen, on the top right corner, there is a time clicking. So time is running down, and obviously that is putting pressure on the players. When the time was almost running out for this phase, one of the guys that was the tester, he said, oh, but anyway, he wanted to suggest to the other players that were not part of the engineering team. And so he said, there is another way to cheat the system. Basically, he wanted to say, look, this is a 1-digit number. So with 9 attempts, basically, you're going to find the solution. Because once you put the right one, you're going to hear a clicking noise. Well, people were so stuck, in the analytical way of solving it that nobody wants to get, to this kind of solution and shortcut, even though it was never prohibited in the rules. Okay, so this is again cultural bias stopping us, and the analytical processing that once we get in, it completely focuses our attention and it prevents us from processing the other options that are there. It was not prohibited, it was a good idea, but because the word cheating was used, that created a bias that prevented the people from actually using the shortcut. There was actually a solution. So if you go to the next one, Fernando, just to show another one, there is 9 of these basically. So they have to organize themselves. They can solve it in groups. This is the same. So if you go to the next one.
I think this is the next.
Yeah. So in this one instead, you will see, this is a different one. Basically, what it's telling you is that you need to see what are the states of US that are bordering Canada from west to east. And then you have to look at the plates that are over there, and in the plates there is a message. As you can see, so he's checking, so first of all, he has to find a map of US and Canada. They can use whatever they want. They can also use Google. They are at home, so they are provided this map, but they could also search on Google and go find a different solution. There is no limitation in the tools you can use. As you can see, they are proceeding. This is the analytical process, okay? So it's checking, okay, what is the first state? Let me go find the plate and let's read what's on it. Now, the shortcut here is that during the exploration of the room in the beginning, you as a player, maybe your attention was caught by the fact that there is a whiteboard that you can interact with. Because all the tools that are useful for the solutions are inside. Basically, you can select them. And so while you are doing this analytical process right now, your intuitive brain could tell you that once you start seeing clean the white, so as soon as you go to white, you know that the next word is going to be board because you saw it before and you saw that there is an eraser on the whiteboard. So this intuition would shorten the time for you to get to the solution. So in this case, obviously, our tester was going to show the exact analytical process, but the intuitive process in this case would be a shortcut because in the exploration of the room, you saw that there is a whiteboard. So now you see that he will go search for the whiteboard, and he will see there is an eraser. He will cancel the whiteboard, and then it will appear the number that he will have to put. So you can go, so basically there are 9 of these riddles. And like I said, you can work in parallel or you can work individually. The important thing is that we always try to, especially the work individually, to alternate, so do a blended between the actual room itself and the emotional and relational parts. So we stop them and we make them go back to talking to each other, because one of the things we notice, the tendency is the more you go into analytical problem solving, the more you forget that you are with other human beings trying to solve the problem. Okay, so Fernando, if you want to go to the next one. So once you unlock these 9 riddles, you get to the final riddle. The final riddle is shown over here. Basically, you are presented with an overwhelming, so the box opens and you see basically 76 cards and that are spreading all over the walls. And you're like, oh, wow, now what? Basically, you have to find a way to put these cards into a logical order. And the logical order is first into flags. So the flag is helping you to cluster these 76 cards into 6 groups. And in this case, we ask, in the beginning, in the second phase, we let them just do whatever they want, so they can organize themselves as they wish. In the last phase, we ask them to pick a leader. So we want them to start with a hierarchical approach, because we want to see again how that influences the performance of the team and also the emotional state. So the team leader basically has to, with the help of the others that are able to actually see and provide information to him, he has to cluster these 76 cards into 6 groups. And every time he puts, like, for example, all the flags of Canada together, then he sends this inventory. If you can go to the next animation. So he will send the inventory to one of his teammates. And the teammate will have now to put these 13 cards of the same cluster, so of the same nation and of the same person, into a logical order. Why? Because the 13 cards are a narration of a life experience of this person. This is a very good tool because, as you know, narrative is very, very important for cultures. So we can change these narratives according to fit the culture of the organization in a way that makes sense, you know, that is kind of triggering some chords of the person. So they're not just reading life experiences of whoever. For example, in the one we made for the Emirati Air Force, we put life experiences of pilots. So situations that were pilot related or military related. In this case, we put 6 experiences generally of researchers and data scientists. But this could be tailored to the need of whatever organization you're doing the training with, and it's very important because the story that you read needs to kind of resonate inside your brain. Now, where is the shortcut here? The shortcut is that once you put in line, like you organize logically, the first 2 groups, like imagine the Belgian and the Canadian, you should be able to see that the sequence of letters is always the same. And so once you realize that, it's kind of pointless to keep on doing the same process for the other 4, but you can repeat the sequence, and then reading in diagonal in the red, you will get a code word. This code word will get you out of the escape room. So all this to say what? In our journey up to now, and that is why Fernando said that it would be really nice in the next months to have people supporting us in beta testing and trials, we think that we could be using both, because the online experience would be very useful for people in the debriefing to become aware of how much the use of the limitation on technology. So like we said before, so the use of the isolation that the screen forces you to get out of the relational aspect, the emotions that you're feeling, the stress that you're perceiving, seeing, you know, dots going around representing other people and not realizing they are people. Okay, so they're just people exploring the room. So the stress coming from the time, the difficulty that you have to keep on a relationship, you know, with a computer while you are stressed out by solving a problem. How that affects the intuition versus the ability to do analytical work. So all these things could be created, generated during the online experience, then debriefed, and then the lessons learned from this, they could be used in the real cave, you know, with a physical experience, and actually trying to see the differences. Because, you know, in my experience, I saw the conference that was going on before us. It was about mindfulness. Now it could seem funny that you hear a pilot speaking about mindfulness, but that's what we did with our officers. And I guarantee you that, you know, from people coming from the movie Top Gun, not the second one, the first one in the 90s, you know, sitting down in a room and doing mindfulness, in the beginning, it was kind of challenging, culturally speaking, but that's the key. Awareness, so becoming aware of ourselves and how we function, our brain decides what the cognitive biases are and how they apply, where they trick us, where they become instead, you know, some kind of leverages to take better decisions, is fundamental. So and especially now that COVID has pushed so hard on the long distance, we are losing it. We are losing something that is there, and is there unconsciously. You know, we process terabytes of information every second, and that is used by System 1 to make smart decisions, because, you know, the system has kept us alive, you know, up to now, and so is very effective in certain things. But, you know, the long distance is taking that out. And so we need to find a way, a different way to still, you know, get back into awareness of this system. So it's like becoming aware of System 1 that usually is unconscious. So I think, you know, that's it on my side. And Fernando, if you have any points to make, if not, you know, or other guys, you know, or ladies, or anybody that is connected, if you have any comments, I'm available.
Here we are, and trust me, looking at small dots like the one at the bottom now with Andrea gets you crazy, because I tried many times online to follow the game, to be part of the game, to understand what Andrea was doing, to understand what other small dots were doing, and I got crazy, and I understood as an instructional designer that we were a little bit naive at the beginning of our journey toward the digitized online escape room, when we were assuming that online or into a brick and mortar facility was more or less the same. With Chris, we understood step by step that we need to be instructional designer in two very different ways in order to be able to design something effective for the real world and for the virtual digitalized world. This is part of what we are trying to do. And because I know that many of us are also from academic institutions and research centers, please feel really free now or in the following days to let us know if someone is willing to jump into the platform, or better, if someone is willing to perform some beta testing. Because digital mindset, in our opinion, is something that we should really hone in ourselves all over the world, because society 5.0, or at least industry 4.0. So we are people living into a so-called smart world, for sure a digitized world, and we need to hone our digital mindset. That is something that has to be aware about epistemology, about the way we think, the way we act, the way we are biased, the way we sometimes are into a fixation error. For instance, surgery. Fixation error is when you are putting at danger a patient because you are assuming that there is an only solution. But you are only cognitively biased. This is digital mindset in our perspective. And this escape room is a way to perform better our daily tasks as professional guys, from the civil as well as from the military, from the healthcare as well as from the corporate world. Just last slide, because this is the platform waiting for you, just in case, coming days, weeks, and months. But please take into consideration one of our applied research outcomes. Being a virtual leader means something really challenging to the all of us. And we started writing or reading or thinking or experiencing again all the field related to leadership. Just reading, like in this case, not necessarily by writing something new, but just reading. Keep in mind, please, at least this is our output today, that to be a teammate into a virtual team, to be a virtual leader means, from a cognitive and metacognitive perspective, trying to hone our own digital mindset. This is at least one of the key messages we would love to share with you guys today. And I'm really thanking you also on behalf of Cristiano.
Same for me. Great pleasure.
Thank you both very much for a very interesting talk and demonstration. And if anyone, we have some time for questions. So if anyone has questions, if they could put those into the Q&A box or into the chat box. And while people are doing that, I've got a question I'd like to start with. I was really interested to see this, and having sort of experienced a number of leadership courses, I was wondering if in the escape room you envisage it being an open or closed cohort. So would they typically be people who maybe know each other or worked together before, or might they be complete strangers when they first come together to have this digital experience?
Chris, what do you think?
Well, again, it depends. It depends. That's why we, one of the things that we need to improve, definitely, and with Fernando, we've been discussing a lot, is the ability of one person to see what the other are doing. Because without that, in the escape room, you get hyper channelized on your own task, and you completely forget. Not only you forget, but you miss exactly all those, let's call it, analogical information coming from the environment. Once you do it, once you play in the cave, like I said, you smell, you hear, and you're not conscious. Maybe you're solving a problem and you hear somebody chatting at distance, another group that's solving another task, and from that you're deriving information that you're using in your own task. So that is something that we're still developing. So we need to increase the level of awareness of a person about what others are doing. Talking about leadership, that's why we decided to use like a more open decision on the kind of leadership they want to exercise in the initial part. So they can use a collaborative one, or they can completely split, or we let it completely open. And that is because that is kind of fitting the fact that people don't know each other. So in the beginning, it's kind of difficult in a team that people that don't know each other to just pick a leader and be very directive. Once you do the experience of phase 2, so the first 9 riddles, we stop, we go back to the chat room, and then we kind of process that event, let's say, in order to put them more into a challenging situation that is now you choose a leader. So now you go from a networked structure of leadership into a, top-down hierarchical structure, at least in the beginning. But again, that can be changed according to the kind of people you have in the training session, because if you have instead maybe a team that is actually already working together, you can definitely focus on other things. And then according to the kind of leadership that is in the team and is promoted, you can shift this kind of leadership challenges for phase 2 and phase 3. That is something flexible. You can adapt it.
Let's say, just to add something, I saw into the chat there are some people interested in beta testing and jumping with us into the platform. And thank you for your interest, and we are more than happy to be with you in a few days. Just in case you were looking for some more info about the backgrounds we moved from and the first and early results and outputs better we are talking about and we are assuming to have been reaching, take a look also at the paper that is into all the material from the Learning Ideas Conference. This is just the abstract. It's very small. It's not now the right time to read, but you will find into all the material from this wonderful conference. And I'm really thanking David, because our years and years that is providing us the chance to share all together as a community very important new trends and experiments. So for sure, we are open to talk about leadership trends, an anthropological perspective and approach in order to adapt this experience alongside the multiple verticals. There is a room for a lot of improvement and for developing pilot projects related. And we would love to do this. And please help us to do this, because we cannot do only by ourselves.
That's great. Thank you. And yes, so I don't think we have any further questions. If anyone else, we've had some people in chat wanting to get in touch. If anyone else wants to get in touch, do feel free to reach out. And thank you again both so much for a fantastic session.
I already had some questions via the chat. I hope we will be able to answer the question I saw before. Otherwise, please write us again and we'll try to provide also further answers.
Thank you so much to all of you. It was a great pleasure.
Thank you, guys. All the best.
Thank you. Thanks.